The rain came down in sheets, but the golden retriever didn't move. She stayed in the same spot she'd been in for weeks, lying on cold concrete outside a convenience store, staring at the corner where he used to appear. Her ribs were starting to show. Her golden coat had lost its shine, but she didn't leave. She just waited, like she'd been doing every single day, for a man who was never coming back. If you've ever wondered how far a dog's loyalty can go, stay until the end of this story. You won't want to miss what happens next. This is the story of Lucy, a golden retriever who refused to leave the spot where she last saw her owner, even as her body began to give up. But here's what nobody understood at first. Every evening at exactly 6 p.m., she'd stand up and stare down the street, waiting for a sound only she remembered. Someone kept leaving food and water for her every morning, but they never showed their face, and they were crying every time they did it. And around her neck was a faded blue collar with military dog tags attached. What happened to the veteran she was waiting for? Why did she refuse to leave even as she slowly starved? And what would it finally take to end the waiting? Lucy wasn't always alone. For 3 years, she walked the streets of downtown Portland with a man named David Monroe. They were inseparable. David was a veteran, Army medic, 2 tours in Afghanistan. He came home with PTSD and injuries that never fully healed. He ended up homeless, but he had Lucy, and Lucy had him. Every day, they'd rest outside the same convenience store on Morrison Street. David would sit on the curb, his hand resting on Lucy's head. She'd lie beside him, her body pressed against his leg, like she was protecting him from the world. Local photographer Margaret saw them almost every day. She said you could see it in the way they looked at each other. They'd saved each other's lives more than once. But one evening, everything changed. Lucy was there. David wasn't, and Lucy hasn't moved since. It had been 5 weeks when people started asking questions, but Lucy had one habit that made everyone realize she wasn't just waiting, she was believing. Store clerk Marcus Williams noticed her the first morning, a golden retriever sitting exactly 3 feet from the entrance, soaking wet from the night's rain, shivering. He brought out a towel, tried to dry her off. Lucy let him, but the moment he tried to coax her inside, she pulled back, returned to the exact same spot. Marcus crouched down. "Come on, girl, you'll freeze out here." He placed food just inside the doorway. Lucy stared at it. Her stomach was clearly empty, but she wouldn't cross the threshold. She looked at the food, then back at the street corner, then lay down in her spot, like there was an invisible line she'd made a promise not to cross. Marcus didn't understand it then, but he would. That night, he stayed late, watched through the window. At 5:58 p.m., Lucy was lying down. At 6 p.m. exactly, she stood up. Her whole body went rigid, ears forward, eyes locked on the corner, tail lifted slightly. Every muscle in her body said the same thing. "He's coming. Any second now. He's coming." Marcus watched her stand there for 11 minutes, unmoving, hoping. Then slowly, the hope drained from her eyes. Her tail lowered, her ears fell. She lay back down, and Marcus understood. She wasn't waiting randomly. She was waiting for a specific moment, a moment that used to mean everything. Then they noticed the one detail nobody could explain. Margaret came back to Morrison Street 3 days later. Lucy looked worse. Her golden fur was matted. Her eyes were sunken. She'd stopped eating most of the food people left. Margaret knelt down beside her. Lucy didn't react, just kept staring at the corner. Margaret gently touched her collar, felt the metal tags hanging from it. She lifted them into the light. Not regular ID tags, military dog tags with a name engraved. SGT David Monroe, U.S. Army Medic. Margaret's breath caught. This wasn't just a homeless man's dog. This was a veteran's dog. She looked at Lucy, at the way she sat, shoulders back, eyes forward. Even in her grief, there was discipline, training. Lucy had been taught to wait, to be patient, to trust that her soldier would come back. But that wasn't why she stayed. Margaret pulled out her phone, started recording. This is Lucy. For 5 weeks, she's been waiting outside this store for her owner, a veteran named David Monroe, to come back. Her voice cracked. She's starving herself. She won't leave. And every day at 6 p.m., she stands up like she's reporting for duty. If anyone knows what happened to David Monroe, please, this dog is dying of loyalty. She posted it. Within 2 hours, it had 50,000 views. By morning, it had 2 million. And one of those views changed everything. The next morning, Marcus arrived at 5 a.m. There was already fresh food in Lucy's bowl, clean water, a new blanket folded beside her. He'd been wondering who was leaving these things. This time, he waited. Hid around the corner, 4:46 a.m. A woman in a gray hoodie appeared. She walked slowly, like every step hurt. She knelt beside Lucy, set down the bowl, filled the water. Then she did something that made Marcus's chest tighten. She wrapped her arms around Lucy and sobbed. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I can't take you. I'm so sorry." Lucy's tail moved, just once, soft, like she understood. Marcus stepped out. "Ma'am." The woman stood quickly, wiped her face. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just—" "I know," Marcus said gently. "I've seen you before, on the cameras." The woman's face crumbled. "I can't take her. I'm living in my car. I can barely—" Her voice broke. "But I can't let her starve." Marcus moved closer. "Do you know David?" The woman nodded. "I met him at the VA clinic 2 months ago." She looked at Lucy. "He told me about her, how she pulled him out of a dark place, how she was the only reason he was still alive. He said she was trained as an emotional support animal for veterans, that she could sense when he was having an episode." Margaret's video had mentioned David was a medic, but this was different. "What happened to him?" Marcus asked. The woman pointed to the corner Lucy stared at every evening. "He collapsed, right there, July 18th, 6:02 p.m. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I was walking past. I saw it happen. 1 second he was sitting with Lucy. The next he grabbed his chest and went down." Marcus felt sick. "I called 911. Paramedics came. They worked on him for 8 minutes before they got his heart started again. They loaded him into the ambulance. Lucy tried to jump in with him." Her voice cracked. "They pushed her back. She chased the ambulance down the street. I tried to grab her, but she came right back here." The woman looked at Lucy. "She's been waiting for him to come back ever since." Marcus's throat tightened. "Is he alive?" The woman closed her eyes. "I don't know. I went to the hospital the next day. They wouldn't tell me anything. Patient privacy." She pulled out her phone, showed Marcus a screenshot, a missing person report she'd filed. "No one's seen him. No one knows where he is." She knelt down again, kissed the top of Lucy's head. "I keep thinking, what if he died? What if she's waiting for someone who's never coming back?" Lucy leaned into her, just slightly. What the first phone call revealed made them realize Lucy had been right all along. Margaret's video reached 5 million views. News stations picked it up, local, then national. Loyal dog waits for veteran owner outside Portland store for 5 weeks. The comment section exploded. Thousands of people offering to adopt Lucy, hundreds more asking about David. Veterans groups shared it, PTSD organizations, homeless advocacy pages. Then, on day 38 of Lucy's wait, Margaret's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Is this the woman posting about the golden retriever on Morrison Street?" The voice was professional, tired. "Yes, do you know something?" "My name is Dr. Ellen Rost. I'm a social worker at Legacy Emmanuel Medical Center." Margaret's heart stopped. "I saw your video. I think," Dr. Rost's voice broke, "I think I know where David Monroe is. He's here. He's been here since July 18th. Margaret couldn't breathe. "Is he alive?" "Yes, but barely." Dr. Rost paused. "He had a massive heart attack. His heart stopped for over 9 minutes. We got him back, but the damage was severe. He was in ICU for 3 weeks. Then he developed pneumonia, then an infection. He's only been conscious and stable for the last 5 days." Margaret's eyes filled. "Does he know about Lucy?" Dr. Rost's voice cracked. "He's been asking about her since the moment he woke up. He keeps saying, 'Where's Lucy? Someone needs to find Lucy. She doesn't know where I am.' The nurses thought he was confused, delirious, but then I saw your video." Margaret was crying now. "She's been there the whole time, right where he collapsed." Dr. Rost was quiet for a long moment. "He doesn't know that. He thinks she's gone. He thinks she ran away and something happened to her. Every night he has the same nightmare. He wakes up screaming her name." Margaret stood up. "I need to bring her to him." "Hospital policy. I don't care about policy," Margaret said. "That man is dying thinking his dog is dead, and that dog is dying waiting for him." Dr. Rost was silent. Then, "Side entrance, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring proof she's his." But what they found in the hospital records broke everyone who saw it. Margaret and Marcus went to every vet clinic in Portland, finally found one in North Portland that had records. A golden retriever named Bailey, owner David Monroe. But it was the notes in the file that made Margaret's hands shake. Notes: dog trained as ESA for veteran with PTSD. Owner reports dog has prevented 3 suicide attempts by recognizing behavioral changes and intervening. Margaret looked at Marcus. Lucy didn't just love him, she was keeping him alive. Marcus stared at the screen. And now she thinks she failed. They printed the records, drove back to Morrison Street. Lucy was still there, but she looked different, weaker. Her breathing was shallow. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Margaret knelt beside her. "Lucy, I found him." Lucy's eyes opened slightly, but there was no recognition, no hope, just exhaustion. "He's alive. He's at the hospital. I'm going to take you to him." Lucy didn't move. Margaret looked at Marcus. "We're running out of time." Marcus nodded. For both of them. The next day, they broke every rule to make the impossible happen. Margaret and Marcus arrived at the hospital with Lucy at 1:45 p.m. Lucy could barely walk. They had to carry her part of the way. Dr. Rost met them at the side entrance. Looked at Lucy. Her face went pale. "She's worse than in the videos." Margaret nodded. "She stopped eating 3 days ago. I don't think she has much time." Dr. Rost knelt down, ran her hands over Lucy's ribs. "She's given up." She looked up at Margaret. "Dogs can die of grief. It's called broken heart syndrome. If we don't do this now," she didn't finish. She didn't have to. They took the service elevator to avoid crowds. Lucy was too weak to pull on the leash. She just followed, slow, mechanical, like she was going through the motions of living but not really there anymore. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, something changed. Lucy's head lifted, just slightly. Her nose started working. Margaret felt it through the leash. She smells something. Dr. Rost nodded. His room is down this hall. Lucy took one step forward, then another. Stronger now, her body remembering something her mind had almost forgotten. They reached room 447. Dr. Rost put her hand on the door. "David doesn't know you're coming. We thought the surprise might be—" She couldn't finish. "He needs this." She opened the door. David was sitting up in bed, thin, pale, IV lines in both arms, oxygen tube under his nose. He was staring out the window, not really seeing anything, just existing. Dr. Rost stepped inside. "David, there's someone here to see you." He didn't turn. "I don't want visitors." "I think you'll want to see this one." Margaret stepped into the doorway, Lucy beside her. For a moment, nothing happened. David didn't see her. Lucy didn't move. Then David turned his head and stopped breathing. "Bailey?" His voice was a broken whisper. Lucy's ears shot up. Her body went rigid. She stared at him, like she was seeing a ghost, like she didn't trust her own eyes. "Bailey, is that—" David's voice cracked. Margaret let go of the leash. Lucy didn't move. She just stood there, staring. 5 weeks of waiting, 5 weeks of believing, and now she was afraid to hope. David's hands shook as he reached toward her. "Bailey, it's me. It's okay." One tear, then another. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I left you." Lucy took one step, stopped, sniffed the air. Her whole body was shaking. Then she broke. She ran, straight to the bed. She jumped up, careful of the IV lines, and pressed her entire body against David's chest. A sound came out of her that Margaret had never heard before. Not a bark, not a whine, a wail. Pure, raw grief finally allowed to break open. David wrapped both arms around her, buried his face in her fur, and sobbed. "I thought you were gone. I thought you were dead." Lucy pressed her nose against his neck, making that sound over and over, like she was saying, "You left me, you left me, you left me, but you came back." David's hands ran over her body, checking her, feeling how thin she'd become. "What did you do?" he whispered. "What did you do to yourself?" Dr. Rost stepped forward. "She waited for you, every day, in the same spot where you collapsed." David looked up, his face destroyed. "How long?" 5 weeks. David's breath hitched. He looked at Lucy, at her sunken eyes, her protruding ribs. "You were supposed to run. You were supposed to find someone else." Lucy licked his face, once, soft, then pressed her head against his chest, right over his heart, the heart that had stopped, the heart she'd been waiting to hear beat again. And for the first time in 5 weeks, she closed her eyes, not to sleep, just to rest, because the waiting was over. Margaret couldn't see through her tears. Marcus had walked out of the room. Even Dr. Rost was crying, but the hardest conversation was still coming. 20 minutes later, Lucy was lying beside David in the hospital bed, her head on his chest, his hand stroking her ears. Neither of them had moved. Dr. Rost finally spoke. "David, we need to talk about what happens next." David didn't look away from Lucy. "I know I can't keep her." His voice was flat, empty. "I don't have a home. I can barely walk. I can't even take care of myself." Lucy's ears flattened, like she understood. "I'll find her a good home," David continued. "Someone with a house, a yard, someone who can—" His voice broke. "Someone who can give her what I can't." Lucy made a sound, low, mournful. She pressed harder against him. David closed his eyes. "I know, girl, I know. Margaret stepped forward. What if there was another option? David looked at her. What option? I have nothing. I am nothing. You're a veteran, Dr. Ross said firmly. You served 2 tours. You saved lives. You came home and the system failed you. She sat down. There's a program, veterans housing with support services, medical care, job placement. David shook his head. I tried that before. I couldn't. The structure, the rules. This one allows service animals, Dr. Ross interrupted. David went still. Lucy's not a service dog. She's registered as an emotional support animal, Dr. Ross said, and according to your VA records, she's intervened during 3 mental health crises. David stared at her. How do you... I pulled your file. With your permission, we can reclassify her as a psychiatric service dog. David looked at Lucy. She deserves better than this, better than me. Lucy's tail thumped against the bed. Once. Weak, but deliberate. Dr. Ross leaned forward. David, that dog waited outside for 5 weeks, in the rain, in the heat. She starved herself. Her voice was gentle but firm. She didn't do that for better. She did that for you. David's hand trembled on Lucy's head. What if I can't do it? What if I fail again? Then we'll be there, Dr. Ross said. This isn't you doing it alone anymore. David looked at Lucy, really looked at her, at the gray around her muzzle, at the way she was looking at him, not with judgment, with absolute, unwavering faith. Okay, he whispered. Okay, we'll try. Lucy's tail wagged, stronger this time, and that's when the dog did something that changed the story. 2 weeks later, David was discharged. He could walk now. Slowly, with a cane, but he could walk. Margaret and Marcus drove them to Morrison Street. David asked them to stop at the convenience store. Margaret pulled over. David got out carefully. Lucy followed. She walked right to the spot where she'd waited. The blankets were gone, the bowls had been removed, but she remembered. She sat down, faced the corner where David had collapsed, and David understood. She needed closure too. He walked over, sat down beside her on the curb, right where he used to sit. Lucy immediately pressed against him, head on his knee, the way she always had. You waited for me, David whispered. You never stopped believing I'd come back. He ran his hand down her back. I'm here now. I'm not leaving again. Lucy looked up at him, and for the first time since July 18th, her tail wagged freely. Not the weak, hopeful wag from the hospital, a real wag, happy, believing. David looked at the corner, at the place where his heart had stopped, at the place where Lucy's waiting began. Thank you, he said to Margaret and Marcus, for not giving up on her. Marcus smiled. We didn't save her. She saved herself. She just needed you to come back. David stood. Lucy stood with him. You ready to go home? Lucy's answer was to walk toward the car, not looking back, not hesitating, because home wasn't a place anymore. Home was wherever he was. 3 months later, Margaret visited David and Lucy at their new apartment. Small, but warm, clean, theirs. Lucy was lying in a patch of sunlight by the window. Her coat had grown back, shiny, healthy, golden again. She wasn't watching the street. She was sleeping, deeply, peacefully, her paws twitching in a dream. David was in the kitchen, making lunch. He looked different, healthier. His eyes had light in them again. She still waits for me sometimes, David said, when I go to my VA appointments. But now when I come back, she's at the door, wagging her tail. He smiled, not afraid anymore, just happy. Margaret looked at Lucy. What changed? David set down the coffee. She knows I'm coming back now. He walked over to Lucy, sat down beside her in the sunlight. She woke up, immediately pressed her head against his leg. Dogs don't understand time the way we do. They don't know the difference between 5 minutes and 5 weeks. All they know is you left or you came back. He scratched behind her ears. Lucy learned I always come back. The 3 open loops finally closed. The 6 p.m. routine? That's when David used to return from the plasma donation center every single day for 3 years, 6 p.m. That's when Lucy expected him. The secret helper? The woman from the VA who'd met David once, who couldn't save him but couldn't let his dog starve, who left food every morning at 4:47 a.m. because that's when she finished her night shift at the hospital and it was the only time she had. The military dog tags? Lucy wasn't just a pet. She was registered as an emotional support animal, trained to recognize when David was in crisis. She'd physically blocked him from harm 3 times. Those tags meant she'd earned the right to stay by his side. Margaret watched them together, David and Lucy, both scarred, both broken, both saved by refusing to give up on each other. I used to think love meant never letting go, David said quietly, but Lucy taught me something different. He looked at Margaret. Love means waiting, even when it hurts, even when everyone tells you to move on. Love means standing in the same spot every single day. Lucy's tail thumped softly, and believing they'll come back. Lucy stood up, walked to the door, looked back at David, then at the leash hanging on the wall. David laughed. "You want to go for a walk?" Lucy's whole body wagged because walks didn't mean goodbye anymore. Walks meant together, and together meant home. If this story touched you, leave a comment and tell me. Have you ever had a dog who waited for you no matter how long you were gone? Lucy waited for 38 days in the rain, the heat, and the cold. She didn't give up. She didn't stop believing. That's what love looks like when it has 4 legs and a heart that never breaks. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel shares stories of incredible dogs, the ones who show up when we're broken, the ones who wait when everyone else walks away, the ones who remind us what it means to never stop believing in someone. You don't want to miss the next story. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.